Good morning, children. My name is Uncle Julian, and I'm going to tell you the story today, the children's story. And it should be exciting because it's about something that children usually love to do: go camping and hiking. And so I'm going to tell you a little bit about what you need if you're going to really go camping and hiking. Okay? First of all, what you'll need is to have some really good boots, like these here. These are my old boots, and they're able to go anywhere, and they're waterproof as well. And you need a pack to carry on your back, in which you pack all these things. And of course you'll need a sleeping bag, and that sleeping bag will hang underneath your backpack. Okay? Now let me also mention that you're going to need a good hat, like that, with a nice broad brim to protect the sun, protect you from the sun, and you'll need a coat, a jacket that is warm and waterproof. Okay? Now let's look at one or two other things over here. Of course you have to take along your towel, your little towel, okay, your toothbrush, and your toothbrush, if it's inside one of these, won't be used by any insects. Okay? Right. Then, one important thing is to have enough water between your water stops. So you need a nice bottle, and you need a good torch. And here is a lovely one for when you've reached the fire and you want to sit around, and you could just put this little one on like that, and if you have an emergency you can actually do that, right? And then of course there's this kind, which is handy. That's the head torch that goes around your head. And then this is also a very nice one. You don't need all of these, but this kind of torch is also very good. Okay, then you need matches. If you're going to light a fire out there, you need matches. Don't forget them, and put them in a plastic packet or pouch so that they stay nice and dry. This is something you must never forget, because children, there isn't anything out there that's as soft as this. Okay? Good. Now let me just tell you that this is one of my most wonderful things for hiking. It fits on your belt, right? And it is a special multi-tool. It has a nice sharp knife, it has screwdrivers, it has other little things that are helpful, it has very good pliers and cutters, and it has a tin opener and so forth. Very handy, and of course when you've finished with it, you don't have to hassle, because you just close everything up like this, just like that. That's all you do. That's all you do. Close it up and do this with it. Okay? And then you take it and you pop it into its pouch, and it stays safely in there. Okay? Now, there is something that we probably don't normally take with us, but I'm showing you this because this is a very nice little thing. It's a brush for your hair so that you don't look too bad, and it has a mirror, okay? But it's also something that you can use if you want to signal. You've got that mirror, and it can attract the attention of people. Okay, so one other thing that's important here, besides your clothes, is that you must make sure that if you don't want to get your feet full of blisters, wear 2 pairs of socks, okay? That's the first one that you put on, and that's the one you put over it. And if you do that, then it'll stop your boots chafing your feet, because the sock will be working like that on the inside against the sock on the outside. Works very nicely. And then make sure that you have food that is easy to carry and light. This is a packet of noodles. You just add water, cook it up, takes a few minutes, and you don't have to carry all sorts of heavy stuff. If you're going to take anything like bread, rather take a rusk because it's dry. You just use that with some nice hot chocolate or something. Now, there's one last thing I've got here. And you'll say, why do you want to take along a phone? Why do you want to take along a phone? Well, I'll tell you. If you've got an old phone and you want to know where you are or you want to contact people, maybe it's a good thing to take it along with you and charge it up so that it can be used if there's an emergency. When you get to the top of a mountain or a high peak or whatever, you can switch it on, just use it for that emergency and then switch it off. Okay? There's one other thing which is very helpful about these. Most of these phones have got a compass. And if you get to a spot where you're not sure which direction you should use, you just switch it on and you can get your compass bearing and you'll know which direction to go. Now I want to tell you about a trip, a hiking trip that I went on with some people. Children, we had all of these things. Well, in those days we didn't have cell phones, mobile phones with us, okay? They were much too big to carry around and they were very expensive and we couldn't afford them. But everything else we needed we had with us, okay? And when we got to our first hut, we had a lovely night's sleep, and then we were going to go to a second hut far away where we would sleep a second night. And in the morning, after we'd had worship and we'd eaten our breakfast and we'd packed all our things, we set off. But you know what happened? Some people were impatient to get to the other side. You must never be impatient when you're hiking. They were too impatient and they went off on their own along the track. And one of the rules of hiking is never separate your group. Don't let people go off on their own. Don't let people lag behind. Because if something bad happens, nobody will know and they won't be able to get help. So, we walked along and some of us were a bit slower, but some became impatient and they went off far ahead. They disappeared. We couldn't see them anymore. And then what happened was we came to a place where there was a fork in the road. And the road went down, the track went down and into a valley and then up, and it went up through trees and things. And we said which way. I was in the second group and we took out our map and we looked at the map and we looked at the markers next to the trail and we said, this trail up here goes to the top of that peak and there we cross over and go down towards the hut. This one here, it goes down into the bush and then it goes up and eventually it goes out of sight. That's not the right trail. This one is the right trail. And so we began to walk. And it was a steep climb, a steep climb, a steep climb. And we couldn't see the first group. They'd disappeared. We didn't know where they were. And eventually we got near the top, right up to the saddle, they call it the saddle, where we could look out. And there was no one to be seen. We didn't know where they were. We looked down the other side, they weren't there. And so we stopped there, and we sat, and we waited. And we shouted across the valley. And then suddenly somebody saw, coming down the mountain on the other side, far, far away, some hats. Yes, that was our group, the ones who'd gone ahead. And you know what? Eventually, after walking for a long, long way, they came up and they joined us. They were so tired. They were exhausted. And we said to them, why did you go up that side? And you know what their answer was? We didn't bring our map. Now, that is a really bad thing to do when you're hiking, because you need a map in order to find your way. And that is the very worst thing you can do. is to leave your map behind. They probably left it in the hut where we'd slept. And I'd like to say this to you, that life is like a big hike. Some places it's easy to see where you should go, but in some places it's not. And if you get to a place where you're unsure, you need your map, because your map will tell you where you should go, which direction you should take, and exactly where you're heading. Now, of all these things here, the map is missing, because the map that I'm talking about is the Bible. When we go through life, we need to have the Bible, because it is our map book for life. It has commandments, it has directions, it tells us all sorts of things that we need to know in order to find our way, all the way eventually to where God wants us to be. And where's that? It's heaven, isn't it? We're going to heaven, and we need to have God's map book for that, the Bible. If you don't have a Bible, ask your parents to get you one, or speak to your pastor so he can get you one. Okay? Now you have a wonderful Sabbath, and take care. Thank you.
I just thank you, God, for me.